Welcome back, guys. It's Big Bryan here, 8747 Productions, and we're still with Dan from Between the Buried and Me. And we've been talking a little bit about putting together their past, collection of records, where they've come from, where they're going. And there's a man named Percy Sholmes back in the 1600s wrote this Oxford's Complete Guide to what is everything music, and he defined musical form as a series of strategies designed to find a successful mean between the opposite extremes of unrelieved repetition and unrelieved alteration. And I think if you guys listen to what was just said in there, that describes what Between the Buried and Me is exactly. You're going for these unrelieved extremes versus unrelieved repetition. In fact, at the end of the last segment, you just kind of brought up that you had all these little pieces, and now you've learned how to kind of make everything fluid and cohesive,
Totally.
which is really cool. And so actually, let me get to our first fan question real quick here. We got Johnny Roast Beef, although I know that's not his real name. He said, I wanted to know how deep the tie-ins are from the new record, Parallax 2. I know that it ties into the predecessor, Parallax 1, and mentions a few things that have shown up in their other albums, like the great Misdirecting Colors. However, I've also heard parts that seem to be quotation of their past work, and want to know if this is intentional and how it ties in.
Yeah, those are all lyrical tie-ins, and I'm not really, I've never been inside Tommy's head, and I'm not quite sure, how he always draws on things like that, but he does like to make connections, and he's done that. He's done that for years. He's done that for a really long time,
Right.
And it's a cool thing, and it's just a fun little nugget for the people that are paying attention.
I think even musically, I notice that you'll have like a riff that kind of almost pays homage to something back earlier.
Yeah.
Like every once in a while, I'll hear something like, "Oh yeah, that reminds me of that song."
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's fun.
yeah, that's cool. And then Courtney from North Carolina, so back home where you're from, wants to know, what's the most rewarding aspect of your career?
Honestly, in doing this tour right now, it's been so incredible, and I think it's the most rewarding thing is the fact that our fans have really stuck with us. The band is much different now than when we started, and that people continually are kind of psyched on whatever the newest thing we're doing is, and being such a creative force and like constantly trying to move forward. That's so important. Like we can't dwell on just playing songs off Colors or whatever.
Right.
And we love that stuff, and we appreciate how that album helped us kind of catapult into this sort of second phase so far of our career. But for us, it's always about whatever the next thing is. And so, it's really we're just so appreciative.
Right, and growth. I mean, if you're playing the same album over and over, you're in a stagnant, set of. There's bands that make their whole living off that, and that's fine. But I tend to gravitate towards bands that are always reaching for different ways of expression.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. And then last one, they want to know how you got Parallax 2 to come together so perfectly. There wasn't a problem with the album's mix, and I wanted to know if they had a lot of parts reworked or produced, or if they figured out all these little nuances on your own.
Well, we always go into the studio with everything 100% done. Anything that Jamie King, our producer, helps with is like, I don't know, Jamie's really good with Tommy with his vocals, helping figure out harmonies and different voices and stuff. And he's great with, with guitar lines and stuff and figuring out tones and this and that. But everything is very much fine-tuned by the time we go into the studio. There's definitely a lot of revisions and stuff that happen to the songs before we get to the studio, a lot. Sometimes, drastically different than whatever the first take of the song was,
Right, and especially with progressive type of music, I mean, you're not hitting, four to the floor, just kind of doing the same kind of things. I think you guys really have to go through, and it's a conscientious effort, I'm sure, from every member of the band, that's not fitting right, let's try something else. I mean, how would you describe your writing process?
I would say it feels very natural. a lot of it, there's so much individual work that happens at home behind the scenes, and it takes place at a time like now or like a year from now before we even like get to the room where we're all sitting together actually working on writing an album. There's all this preparation that happens individually beforehand, and then you start sharing files, and you sort of, you just get a sense of what's out there, like what everybody's kind of working on or writing on, and then you start to gravitate towards certain things for certain songs, and from there it is very natural, and it's whatever feels good, but we're also, I think without, there's no conscious effort to do anything, and we kind of like unconsciously are pushing ourselves, and that could maybe seem like an unnatural thing, but for us that's just the kind of musicians we are. We always have to
good.
be.
It's way better than like, hey, how can we restructure a couple power chords to make music? And I really appreciate what you guys do. I know that it takes a lot of time and effort, and it's not something that just comes together one day and the next day it's ready to go. As you guys might be able to hear in the background, the concert sounds like it's getting started, so we'll cut this off. Want to say thank you guys so much for coming out. It's really a pleasure to have you, and really looking forward to hearing you guys play through Parallax too.
Awesome.
And hopefully we'll see you guys when you come back through next time. And this is Big Bryan, 8747 Productions, and we're signing out.